things weren't made and things weren't invented during those times. I used to have, during the business days, dictaphones. I had the little handheld ones, and I also had the ones that you did on a floppy disk. The company I worked for was more or less among the first to get my memory's not going too well this morning. It's not a laptop, it's not an iPhone, it's a computer.
A computer?
Yeah. We were among the first to get computers. We had to have a special office built.
Yeah.
And soundproof and all the rest of it. And the hard disk was around about 15 inches wide by about 9 inches deep, and it had a carrying handle on it with a circular thing.
Right. Yeah.
It's okay for the 40s to 50s to 60-year-old, but like I'm 96 and I can't see any point in me learning too much more.
I took the liberty of using a drone to take a photograph of your amazing house, which makes me think of an Enid Blyton novel, Famous Five. We have a great adventure here.
From the front.
That's right. And you've got that tennis court.
Yeah.
And you've got the...
I haven't chalked that up for about 25 years. Yeah.
You would have played tennis on it?
Oh, hell yes. My wife, every Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I get out of bed, I've got a heavy roller still down the back. I can't use it now, I can't pull it. Well, I don't need it anyhow. I used to get up, cut the lawn, roll it, then I got a marker, mark it up, come in here, get ready, and then go to work.
Is that right?
Have a Wednesday, yeah. Because
your wife needed it?
Well, because we used to have the people from around the neighbourhood. No, you saw the little patio out there, just out here. That's the patio.
Yes, that's quite lovely, actually.
Well, I didn't have the glory vine on it before, but even to start off with, the first Christmas, there was 2 kids there, 2 kids there, 2 kids there, 4 kids there. Wickham's had 4 kids, and the people next door 3 kids, and we just had the 1. But of the Christmas time, we used to let them get dressed in this dining room and that, open up the double doors, and that was the stage.
Yes.
Out the patio was the stage, and we used to put the chairs on the lawn.
Wonderful.
And your admittance was a bottle of beer. That was our Christmas Eve show.
Wonderful. Yeah. And that happened every year? You would have a show?
Well, that was community.
Yeah, that's wonderful, yeah. So you knew everyone in the street?
There's a little park up here.
Yes.
That you've probably seen, have you?
Go on, tell me about it.
It's called Dingley Dell.
Yes.
And I gave it the naming right. I spent 5 years getting that. It was a language centre, and before that was a school. I spent 5 years with government officials and all the rest of it to get it for community use as a entertainment or as a reserve.
He heard that there was going to be housing, and he realised what open space has the community got. So hence a gentleman who knew how to play the politicians.
Well, he had to sit down with the Premier.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the end?
Yes. And so he fought very hard, and I think it was 7 years worth that he convinced the city.
We see the evidence.
Yes. And that's why he has a dossier of paperwork.
So tell me about the red tape. Tell me about the red tape.
What? For the government, Godfather. Red tape. I didn't secure the occupancy of that as a reserve until I went in and had breakfast with John Olsen, who was then the Premier. I had an audience with him, and we talked about this, and we mainly talked about finance because the council said they couldn't afford all the finance. Could have got it for a song, but they didn't take any notice of that. After I'd seen him a fortnight after, I got a notification from the council that I'd won the case, and it's going to be a public reserve. And we went on from there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, how's that saying go? Like, unless you're talking to the boss, you're wasting your breath?
Yeah, of course. You got to go to the top. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, at least he gave you the time of day.
That's true. Yeah.
And did you know everyone in the street? Because obviously you're quite fond of the community.
I don't now, but before then, we knew everybody. They were our friends. They're not neighbours. They were friends, and the community aspect of things was rife here. You know, it'd be nothing for, say, 6 or 8 of us to go to a dinner together. The 4 chaps, myself, the Wickhams. Incidentally, are you recording this?
Yes.
Oh. Bruce Wickham, well, his brother, Stan Wickham, played for Glenelg.
Yes.
Reg Thomas next door, yourself, and Mal Hassan over the road. That was our foursome for a game of golf.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Tell you what, you could just about play golf in your backyard.
Well, I've done that, don't worry, on that tennis court. That used to be my practice spot out there.
Yeah. It's at least a double block.
Well, it is, but I also did bowling. Like, look, are we still talking? As long as this is being recorded.
Yes. Oh, not being recorded. Well, I edit.
Okay.
When did you come to Blair Athol?
Well, I started the whole thing off as planned, and we, of course, money was scarce in those days, but then again, prices of housing was low. So we looked at, my wife worked for the British Tube Mills, and somehow or other she became secretary to Reg Beaufort, who was the managing director. And they were talking in the typing pool, they were talking one day over lunch, and the girl said to her, "What are you doing over the weekend?" She said, "Oh, my husband and I are going to look for a house. We're planning to have a family and settle down." So she said, "I've got a friend that has just finished building his house, but he's got another block of land at Broadview and he wants to sell the existing one at Blair Athol. Would you like to have a look at it?" So Beryl told me, that's my wife, and I said, "Sure, we'll go up and have a look at it." We came into this house. It had only just been finished building, and she fell in love with it.
I believe it.
She went into the bathroom, and that was blue bath, blue bowl, etc. And in here was a maroon maroon carpet on the floor, and they had a radio here. They didn't have TV in those days. So after she'd been through the place, it's got a separate shower out the back, so that when I was doing any thing in the garden, I'd come in and I'd be able to have a shower before coming really into the thrust of the house. So we had a look at it. We went in the car, and I said, before we got in the car, I said, "Well, how much is it?" And he told me, and I found out that I was running short of a deposit. So I didn't say anything then, but I said, we'll let you know tomorrow. So we went home and we did our homework and everything and sorted out how much money we could make and that. And I think I was £180 short of having a deposit. So I said to my wife, well, you know, as much as you love the place, I'm afraid that we just can't afford it. So we got in the car and we come up here to tell them that, you know, the deal would be off. So we came up here, sat down, discussed the thing. He said, how much you short? And I said, £180. He said, do you think of taking out another loan? I said, no. I said, the only thing that I could see is that we can take out a mortgage and I'll be able to furnish the repayment. And having done that, he said, would you consider having a loan from me? I said, well, that's another aspect I never thought of. Would that be a possible thing? He said, yes, I could do that if you could pay it back within 12 months. I said to him, well, I know I'm getting a rise in June because being I was a young executive, having a rise in June, I'll be able to afford that money by Christmas. So we went out into the car, I got in the car, and my wife grabbed onto my hand and she was that thrilled of getting this house that, you know, it was life all over again. So we got life, we got things rolling, and we were only living in rooms prior to this.
Whereabouts?
At Churchill Road, Prospect.
Wow.
And we had a bedroom, a kitchen, and the use of the lounge room. And that suited us because in those days, say £10 a week was £10, mind you, was a very, very good wage. People were working for £5 and £6 a week.
How much was a beer?
Well, a beer in those days I think was 9p. I remember a schooner. Yes, that would be about 9p. A pint would be about 11p, I'd say. My dad complained once the price of beer went up, and he complained about it, but it went up to 1 and a penny. So in other words, you don't only have to have a silver coin in your pocket, but also a copper coin. Yeah, 1 and a penny.
$15 now, just quickly.
Well, that's just terrible, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry, go on.
But now here I am, 70 years later, in the same house that I've just been relating to you. Yeah.
Which is about as good a life as you could really hope for, really. Certainly it's as good a life as your wife had.
Well, it was affordable, and it was up to everybody that had a job. Now, you didn't get a job that easy in those days.
Because we're talking what year you came here?
Well, we were married in 1953, so it would have been early 1955 that we came up here.
It was post-war boom, though.
Well, it was a post-war boom, but a lot of people, ex-servicemen, they had ex-servicemen's houses provided. They had gratuities, which enabled them to put down a deposit.
Yep.
You see, I was 12 months short of being 18 and joining the forces, so therefore I wasn't an ex-serviceman.
And they had job priority as well.
That's the benefit of the thing.
What was your first job?
Well, do you want me to start? Shall we record? Is
Where
this
were you,
being recorded now?
Where were you born, Brian?
Well, I was born in Adelaide, but things were not good because my dad, although he was the son of a school headmaster, and that was in early days, he was born in 1920. I was born in 1928, which puts my age now at 96. But I was born, you might as well say, in the middle of the Depression. Jobs were very scarce. As a matter of fact, you was lucky being an adult, you was lucky to get a job.
Yes. Which would have scarred you for life.
That's right, yeah. And not only that, there had to be food put on the table. Of course we were on the dole. Why not? Because probably the street we lived in at the time, there must have been about, say, a couple of hundred houses in that street. And I could only remember 2 people having a car out of the whole lot. So that was an upper class if you owned a car.
This is whereabouts?
This is going back to the probably, let's say, 1946, 47, the
late 30s.
couple of years after the war years.
Oh, okay, yes.
So, while Dad was in the army, which he said he was a 6 bob a day soldier, he joined the army, and during the war years, but I was only young, and I got a job at the Adelaide Weather Bureau after I went to college. I went to Ross Trevor College. That's a story in its own. And I was put up, and Mum said, well, it's going to be difficult for her to meet the costs of me going to a college. We had 5 siblings in the family. I had a twin sister and 3 other sisters. No more brothers, just myself. Anyhow, I went to Ross Trevor.
Oh, sorry, what did you eat during the war?
Well, we were on the dole.
Rationing. There was. But if you're on the dole, no good even having a ration card for it.
Well, it's exactly the same thing. You had a dole card, you had a ration card. So your rations covered bread, butter, meat, that type of commodity. But it didn't. You couldn't go out and have a pheasant with roast potatoes and things. That was off the cuff, off the menu. So that's the way that we lived in those days.
And I believe one of the recipes at Christmas was mock turkey, which was a stuffed lamb.
We never had turkey. We had fowls, of course, and Dad was in the army. I remember at one part of the piece that we had Mum's visitors over, her relatives at least over. You know, she was the eldest of 15 children.
Wow.
So you can imagine the relatives that we'd have for Christmas. They were nearly all of them on the dole. That was the common thing. And I, being the only boy in the house, I assumed the role of man of the house. Sure, Dad used to knock the head off of a rooster and pluck it and kill it and pluck it and...
Great luxury.
Yeah, that was a... So Mum said, I don't know how we're going to do it. I said, I'll do it. So you had the block of wood, the axe, the fowl and all the rest of it, and I executed the fowl, and we had we had chicken for lunch. We had rooster for lunch. But going on from there...
well, you're obviously a city boy. I'm a country boy, so I've gutted many chooks.
Well, you know all about it.
Only way to keep your hand warm and standing on top of a windy hill in the middle of winter doing chooks, we used to do heaps at once, was stick your hand in a warm chook.
Yeah. Well, I made a bit of a faux pas. The plucking part of it was done in the copper. I'd dressed the bird. And we were sitting down eating, and one of my uncles said something, I've got wheat. And he had a little pile of wheat on his plate, and the fella next to him said, yeah, he said, I got a couple of those too. Then I learned that birds do have a crop. and it's like a reserve food. And I didn't know that, so I didn't take the crop out. And therefore, people were eating wheat as well as having the meat, which is probably in those days, the wheat wasn't too bad anyhow.
Not too bad with stuffing.
It'd be cheaper, yeah. Well, you had stuffing in there, which was usually a sage and onion stuffing. Yeah, so that was it. Well, moving on, from there, I remember the time I was at a convent school, and
because you're Irish Catholic.
I'm an Irish Catholic, yes. With a name like Doherty or Doherty, yes. And I was taught by the nuns, and I think I was a bear or something in this concert. But one of the items was a rendition by two boys. One was a singer and the other one played the violin. And I had a look at their costumes. I'd been grade 2, and I vaguely remembered that their costume was red and black. A red and black blazer and grey trousers. And one played the violin, and it amazed me because I like music. I'm not a musician, but I did play the piano and the mouth organ, and yes, and followed music through. Anyhow,
as we can see from one of your pictures up there.
That's right.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
Yes. So, Mum, when it came to the point of me passing the qualifying examination of grade 7, she asked me, what would I like to do now? Where do I go to school? And straight away I said Ross Trevor College. Now these were the two boys, and it sort of left a mark on me that, boy, if they could be that good, they must be learning from a good college. So I went out to Ross Trevor College. And from there I went through. Dad joined the army, and not only did we need financial assistance, and the sisters were starting to work for 10 shillings a week. They were all dressmakers. And so I got this job at the Adelaide Weather Bureau. It wasn't extremely well paid either, paid once a fortnight, but all the money I earned I gave to Mum because that was a part of the build-up of our livelihood. And after a few years, and I was there during the war years, and the Adelaide Weather Bureau was taken over by the Air Force during that time. And of course I was very studious, and I was learning meteorology there. When the war finished in 1945, they sent the men and women back, and a lot of it, there was a meteorological part of the Air Force. And I asked to be recognised as a permanent staff at the Weather Bureau, got refused. The job went to an ex-WAF.
Yes.
Good, okay, I accepted that. She was there for about 3 or 4 months and left to get married, because in the Commonwealth Public Service, if you got married, you didn't have a job anymore.
Right.
It was advertised again. I applied, got knocked back. So I thought I'll see the public service people about this. So I made an appointment and saw the boss of the public service department, and he said, you was quite qualified. I'd also passed an examination, Commonwealth public examination called the telephone mechanics exam, so as I could get entry into the Weather Bureau as permanent. Anyhow, he said the big thing is that you didn't have service in the Army or in the Air Force, so therefore you had to be looked over. And so I thought, blow this. I came home and I said, well, I'm looking for another job. And I finished up getting a job as as a clerk as I thought, with an earth-moving sales company that was based in Sydney, but they had a branch here in Adelaide. And I did a couple of years, and I found out not only was I a clerk, but I wrote out all the invoices. I ordered all the spare parts for tractors and graders and dump trucks and things. And there was 13 mechanics, so I had to look after them, whatever requisitions they required to do their rebuilding program I had to get. So it was quite a learning curve for me.
You were learning to manage.
Yeah. And after a couple of years, they asked me to go to, would I accept a job in Townsville? Well, Dad was home from the war and at that time. Mum didn't want me to go because I was the only boy. But Dad finally said, well, Ivy was her name. He said, Ive, you've got to undo those apron strings and let the bird fly. So at the age of 20, I went up to Townsville as a co-manager and opened up a branch as a manager. And I sold equipment to Mount Isa Mines and Mary Kathleen and the timber getting boys up at the Atherton Tablelands. And in the meantime...
Well, sorry, how did you get up there?
By train. In those days, yes, you could have flown, but not only did the people that were working, that had jobs, were lowly paid, there wasn't a lot of profit in the business. There was profit, sure, and they were always trying to increase the bottom line.
And aeroplanes were very expensive in those days.
That's right. So, anyhow...
How was the trip?
Well, the trip was good. As a matter of fact, I had a trip from into Sydney from Albury. There was a change of train at Albury in those days, and I'm sitting with two chaps who came out of the red countries at the time. Hungary and Romania and those places. But these had been prisoners of war. And in fact, one of the chaps showed me the number that he had branded on his wrist. So they were there and we had a conversation talking about the trip. My dad, when they all saw me goodbye, but the whole family were congregated at the Adelaide railway station. And they said to me goodbye and that, and there was tears. And you've got no idea, even yours truly had tears.
Because you were going to the other side of the planet.
That's right. And Dad gave me a present. And we were on our way, and I was sitting in a couple of sailors in my compartment. And I opened up the parcel. It was a small crayfish.
Wow.
And I've never eaten crayfish. I never ate fish. I was 21 before I had my first taste of fish.
Yeah, right.
But he gave me that.
What did you think of the crayfish?
I didn't. The story is going on. Then the second part of the parcel was a small flask of whiskey, and I never had alcoholic drinks prior to this. But I must say, the two sailors, they thoroughly enjoyed the crayfish and whiskey. And I made myself really popular because when we got to Melbourne, anything that I want done, those two boys were there ready to do it for me. Anyhow... And
they were obviously worldly wise, which wasn't
that's right.
a bad thing.
Anyhow, we'll skip a little bit, and while I was in Townsville, the big factor of life began. I'd never dealt with top brass as customers before, and I did have a girlfriend in Adelaide. I came down from Townsville to Adelaide to our 21st birthday, and my girlfriend came along and all the rest of it, because I was only 20 when I was an executive up there. She came down, we went along, and I had a twin sister, and we both enjoyed the 21st birthday. She was an Australian champion ballroom dancer.
Wonderful.
And anyhow, we had the formation and everything done at our birthday. After I left, we of course we talked about being married. I was only 21, only just our 21st birthday. We're talking about being married and that, and I went back to Townsville, and we kept on corresponding. She used to write just about every day to me, and vice versa. But as time went on, the letters started to get a little bit more apart than what had been regular. And I sort of smelled her out, but I didn't believe it. She was still my girlfriend. But in the meantime, I was teaching dancing in Townsville, so therefore I had the opportunity of asking girls, or girls asked me more than that, do you mind having a dance with me when you're going to the AWU hall or wherever the dance was being held?
Because blokes who can dance are in short supply.
That's right, because and I had several girls that were dancing partners, but I was very true blue to my girlfriend here in Adelaide. Dad died in 1952, and I had to come home. And when I came home, I hadn't seen my girlfriend, and just a little interlude there. I came home and I was pretty distraught, Dad dying, and I caught a DC-3 aircraft from Townsville, which was a bit of a bugbear because they couldn't provide me with a ticket. No banks open because it was New Year's Day. I didn't have any money, so I had to borrow £40 from one of my dancing partners up there, and I had no seat on a plane. But I told him the circumstances, and a fellow that used to play on my tennis team up there, he worked for TAA, and he said, look, get out there and we'll get you on a plane. So I went out there. It was before 7 o'clock that I got out there. A DC-3 was ready to go down to Brisbane at 7:30. We called it the mail runner. And this hostie came over to me and said, look, I know the circumstances. Have your case ready and everything. There's 3 coming in from Mount Isa. Now we've got to see if we do get 3 seats. And fortunately, there was only 2 arrived, so I got a seat. We flew down, it was a mail run, we flew down to Brisbane, and from Brisbane to Melbourne.
First time on a plane? First time on a plane?
No, I'd been on a plane before, because up there, through the company, I'd flown. Anyhow, I caught a Convair in Brisbane via Canberra. So I get a seat, and I'm talking to this chap who was quite a portly fella and that, and although I had a lot on my mind, we managed to just talk about other things, mainly weather. And when we were coming into Canberra, a chap came up to our seat. He put his hand over and shook the hand of the gentleman that I was talking to. And he said to him, congratulations on your fine speech in Brisbane, Sir Arthur. And I didn't know until then that I was sitting next to Arthur Fadden, the Alf Treasurer. So I had to retrace my steps to make sure that whatever I said was not anti-liberal or what was.
Well, you kept to the weather mostly, so that was the right thing to do.
He was a country party man then. So anyhow, we came home.
And of course, you were a Labor voter.
That's right. And I said to Mum, 2 days we were home, of course, I was helping to fix up the funeral ramifications, and I said to my mum, would you like to come out with me? And I've got to see the girlfriend. No phones or anything, I never contacted. She said, all right then. So I went down to the local phone box and phoned up her mother, who worked at Graham Jewellers at the time. So we went out there. She said, yes, come out for a cup of tea after. So we got out there about 7:30 or more, and we had a cup of tea poured and the cakes on the table. And I happened to say, where's this particular girlfriend? Where is she? She hasn't shown up yet. And the mother looked at me and said, oh, she's gone to the pictures with her boyfriend. So that on top of the fact of Dad dying, I wasn't feeling too well. On my return to Townsville, of course it was a couple of months, I suppose, it just happened to be that a salesman came into my office and said, I don't know why you're chasing my typist around the office when you've got Miss Townsville sitting right by your side. And so I looked, and Miss Townsville sitting by my side. So I had a look and I thought, goodness me, yeah, she was a fine-looking girl, and she was a brilliant typist and shorthand too. So I finished up, I thought, well, yeah, I've got no girlfriend now, so I'm going to make a play here, which I did. And things rolled on. It took time because she had a boyfriend. And I remember I rang her up this night. She got a telephone, and I went down the local phone box and rang her up just to have a chat, although I'd be seeing her all day long. She was my secretary. And she said that she was a bit teary because she had just finally told the boyfriend that he was no longer a partner. So I thought, well, that's right up my alley. That would do me. So I started to make.
That was a good day.
Yes, I started to make inroads, and the business about Miss Townsville. Yes, she was Miss Townsville, 1951. That's her up there.
Wow, there you go.
Well, there's another photo here, if you like to put that in there.
Oh, can I put that on the piano?
Yeah.
Yep. So we can all see why you were so immediately smitten. I'll be careful with the piano there, but let's go there. There we go. So Miss Townsville, 1951.
Yes.
So she's a local girl.
So, and I thought, well, I can't see anything better than this. So I thought, well, I'm going to make a beeline for it.
How long before you proposed?
And start, well, I'll tell you. We're on the...
Yes.
Yeah. I said to her that, well, we're starting a mode of companionship or courtship, whichever way you like to put it. And I was staying at a boarding house, and of a Monday, of course, I didn't get fresh bread for lunch. I got, and also It was nearly always what I called Heinz 57 varieties. It was a thing in a tin, but she used to make, the boarding house mistress used to make sandwiches of it. There were 6 at the boarding house, so she had a lot of sandwiches to be made. And Beryl said, that was my secretary, well, don't worry about having lunch of a Monday, I'll bring it in. Her father owned a couple of shops in Townsville, and of course she had a way to get fresh bread as she was passing on her way to work, and also I was introduced to asparagus. So asparagus sandwich, never eaten it before, didn't like it, but still the fact that she was making it for me, I've become to like it.
You jolly well appreciated it.
That's right. So that was a sort of, and she said, well, instead of having lunch in the lunchroom, which I used to have with the other staff, there wasn't a lot. There's only about 6 or 8 of us. Let's go out on the lawn. So we went out there, and she used to do the sandwiches. I sat down and we'd chat and have our sandwiches.
And you were floating this high off the grass.
Anyhow, this particular day, she rang me up, or at least she didn't ring me up. She told me at work, she said that she was going on a picnic over the weekend. I said, oh, that'll be great. She's going with her girlfriend and the girlfriend's boyfriend. And Joyce and Tom, their name were. But she said, there's one thing. She said, I haven't got a pay. Would you like to come? I said, I'd be delighted.
Yes, so, floating this high above the...
Yeah.
Yes.
So she said, there's only one thing wrong. And I said, yes, and what's that? She said, well, I go to church of a Sunday and at Belgium Gardens, and that doesn't finish until 10. So we won't be able to get away real early. And I said, well, that's strange. I said, I go to church too, out of Munningborough.
You went to her church that week?
And I said, well, and that finishes at 10. She said, well, what about coming over to our place and we'll go to church together at Belgium Gardens? And that was the first time that I realised her maiden name was Thomas. And of course I wouldn't associate with that being a Roman Catholic or a Catholic. And that was the first time I've learnt that she was a Catholic. She was the same faith as I was. So I said, okay.
And you went?
It was a done deal. And being a done deal, I arrived there on time, and there was her mother, her sister, and myself. The father didn't go because he was a Welshman. He was a non-Catholic. And we walked. The mother was done up with a parasol. It was a warm day, a picture hat, and 3/4 length white gloves. And we walked along the footpath to the church. And it's come to belief that would be probably the finest couple of hours that I've ever spent in my life, walking along and there with my newly found
love
partner, yes, and which turned out to be my love. And so when we returned,
after eating more asparagus sandwiches, yes.
Well, Beryl was organising the luncheon and everything that we were going to have at the picnic, and her mother had made a pineapple chiffon tart, which is one of the best desserts that you've ever tasted. And she said to me, she had a cup of tea and something to chew on, and she said to me, Brian, do you know we've got something in common? And I said, no, Mrs. Thomas, what was that? She said, well, before I was married, my name was Eileen O'Doherty. And me being Brian Doherty, thereby laid some sort of a connection. As a matter of fact, afterwards we were married, and I said, I don't know why I married you, Beryl. We will probably be related before we were married. But
well, I think O'Doherty would mean son of Doherty, somewhere way back.
Son of Doherty, yes, it means son of Doherty. But
so we're probably talking several hundred years, Brian. I think it's okay.
But all in all, it sort of elevated me and my chances to no end. And it was only a couple of months after that, it could have only been a month after that, we went to the picnic and things. We did a lot of other things, of course, but one segment was that we were going to Bawlaguru, which was about 60 miles away.
From Townsville?
From Townsville, yeah, it was south. And going down there, I had a 1936 Ford Coupe car. That was my car that I bought. I also had a Firms car at the time. But we used that, and I went down and went through a creek and did the front suspension, did a shackle bolt in. So we got to Guru to have this dance. I think there was one dance left on the program, and that was it. So we finished up going back. We did meet a chap who was a mechanic, and he came out with his with a Porter Power, Black & Decker Porter Power, spread the front elliptical spring of my car.
Wow. And
put a shackle bolt in, and he only, he was a decent fellow, and he looked at me. I said, how much is that? He said, that's for nothing. Wow. He said, you could have that. So then we were returned to Townsville. The courtship was sort of along those lines all the time.
Well, there were a lot of dances around in those days. Particularly, did you have to go to the country for the dances mostly?
Well, no, because Townsville had 2 or 3 good dancers on, and I used to teach dancing up there, so it was quite my style to go to a dance of a Saturday night, because I know darn well I'm going to get dancers. So that was the thing. There's one item there that was very important that I was going to tell you about. Anyhow.
How long did you stay in Townsville?
I was up there for 4.5 years.
You got married up there, or?
No, well, yes, I did, but I'll come to that now. That the proposal. Now, you'll probably find a picture up there of a house. My painting.
Oh, yeah, the one at the far end. That's the one in Townsville, yes.
Well, that is her home that she lived in at 81 Stagpole Street. And that's my car out the front, a 36 Ford.
Beautiful.
And I called the painting the proposal because that was the exact situation when I said to her, look, we've been going out with each other for a few months now. Do you think it's wise if we just said that we've got a couple arrangement and make it public? And she said, yes. She said, that would be quite good. She said, as a matter of fact, I've always wanted to meet a Southerner and go down south to live.
Wow.
And I looked at her and I said, well, you know, in me, you've got the right recipe. And she accepted it. So
The right man, the right place, the right time.
Well, and not only that, I just felt so relieved that, yeah, but I've got a steady girlfriend. And it was there that I started to make plans. Well, having my dad die and all the rest of it, I was anxious to get back to Adelaide. And I got onto the company and they said, well, there's nothing there for you, but you go back to Adelaide and we'll find a job for you. I was fully expecting to come back here and being a clerk because I'd done a lot of night school, and among that was correspondence with Blair Athol on accountancy. Because I was only a young executive, I'd been nominated and took the job on as an executive manager.
Well, you'd gone up there for that opportunity.
That's right. So when I returned, I said to Beryl, prior to this, I said to Beryl, what we can do is to make sure that you have made the right decision. If I'm the right guy, then going to get married and then go down to Adelaide to live. Is that the recipe? She said, yes, that's it. So I said, all right, before that we get married or talk about it, I want you to come to Adelaide. So she came down to Adelaide. I got my transfer. I turned up at the company in the morning and I saw the girl on the switch and she said, have you seen the manager yet? I said, no, I haven't. She said, oh, well, he's waiting for you. So I said, well, okay then. So I went in, knocked at the door, went in, and it's a new manager, Bob Cameron, and he said, sit down. It was a beautiful office he had. I sat down in a plush chair, and he said, have you seen your office yet? We introduced ourselves, of course. I said, no. I said, I don't know. I said, I don't even know what I'm doing here yet. He said, oh, well, he said, you're our new spare parts manager.
Fantastic.
So I thought, oh, that's good. And he said, well, come and talk in your office. So we went down the passageway and I went into this office. Beautiful desk. The top of the desk had bays, green bays on it.
Beautiful.
A hat rack. A nice little cabinet to keep my books and things in, spare parts books, etc., etc. And I had 2 typists.
Must have been doing a lot of spare parts. You must have been doing a lot of spare parts.
Oh, we were, because the company that I was with, we were selling graders, tractors, dump trucks. I can't name them all because there's 57, again I called it Heinz because there were 57 varieties that we had. And of course I was fairly equipped with a lot of the
same sort of stock that you basically had?
Things required, yeah.
Because I guess the thing about Townsville too is that you were a jack of all trades up there.
That's right.
Yep.
Anyhow, because prior to this, before I went to Townsville, and after I left the Adelaide Weather Bureau, I was there and I thought, well, I've got to learn this game. And I asked the manager at the time whether I could have 3 months off. He said, what's that for? I said, because I'd like to be in the workshop and learn a little about our equipment, etc. And he wouldn't agree to it, but he said, perhaps once a week you could go out there and get tuition in. Well, I went to the pump room and learned all about fuel pumps and injectors. I went to the engine room and learned out all about timing and built liners and pistons and things. I went to the blacksmiths and learned all about Caterpillar tractor, the tracks and tractor stuff. And yes, so I did that. And I volunteered that I should do that if I was be a spare parts manager at the time.
Which was invaluable, obviously.
Yeah, it was. So then
and it would have set you apart.
That's true. So I came down, came back home, and we went over to Melbourne, and Beryl decided to come down, and we picked her up in Melbourne, and Mum and I drove her home here to Adelaide. But I went via the Coorong, and I thought, well, now I'll get to Windy Point, Windy Point up in Adelaide, around about dusk. So we got there, stopped, had a cup of tea, and she got out of the car, Beryl got out of the car, and looked, and at that time of the day, the lights were just starting to go on around Adelaide, and if you looked down on it, you could see probably about 200 degrees circle there, with the lights just coming on that. And she came back to the car, and I said, what do you think of the place? She said, it's beautiful. She said, it's just like fairyland.
True.
Yeah. So I thought to myself, that was good. When she came...
So this is what year? This is what year?
This would have been in 1952.
But there was all these suburbs. Blair Athol wasn't here. It was Fulham Gardens was gardens, market gardens.
Well, the gardens were on then, but they were not what you'd call, not like they are now, because, of course, in those days, jobs were not plentiful. You really had to work, and a gardener at the Botanic Gardens, for argument's sake, now they'd have about 20 or 25 gardeners there, say. At those days, they probably had 5. Anyhow.
Anyway, it was and Beryl, of course, enjoyed the Botanic Gardens.
She enjoyed everything that we had here. And when it come to, she had to have a job. She stayed with my one of my married sisters, and they enjoyed each other's company. And of course, she had to have a work here, so she got a job, and she finished up being secretary to the service manager of bow repair in town. I think they're the organisation that sold everything, didn't they? Tyres and...
yes, right, yes.
Yeah, they had tyres, and they had a whole heap of stuff. Anyhow, she stayed with them. And of course, when it was time to go, the service manager didn't want her to go. She said no.
Well, when she got married, did she have to leave?
She went back to Townsville.
Right.
And that would be after Christmas, because at Christmas time we had another discussion, and she says that she was quite happy with what she's seen about Adelaide environment and the beaches and of course the man she's going to marry.
Great.
Of which I said, right, well, yeah. So I gave her an engagement ring. That was for Christmas. Then she returned to Townsville, and we corresponded quite regularly until it was decided there's got to be a marriage date, so we made it August the 1st in 1953. Mum was a bit perturbed about it, my mother, because me being a Ross Trevor boy and having a chapel out there and being, sort of upgraded, it would have been classified in those days as an upgraded marriage. But I said no, and she was very disappointed that I wasn't married in the chapel out there. But I said to her, if you look at it this way, Mum, my wife-to-be will be leaving her mother and father and sister and coming down to Adelaide to live for good. So I said, I think it's only fair that I should go up to Townsville and get married there.
Great, good on you.
Well, it was that expensive, plane fares and things, that I didn't have any of my family at my wedding. But we got married, and Beryl and I came together here in Adelaide. And that's the story.
And you lived in those rooms for how long?
2 years.
2 years, and then you came and found a place to continue the fairy tale life
Exactly.
that you've been having and continue to have for many more years.
That's right. Well, I had a look at the land and all the rest of it. There was 15 fruit trees growing in there, and I thought, well, it's a shame. But I looked after them for a while, and the grass was growing, and I thought, well, it's about time we got rid of this grass. And the chap next door came in and he said, oh, well, we'll help you, why don't you just burn it off? So I've got 2 chaps from over the road, the fella next door on me, and we're up the northern end, and of course the prevailing wind was from the south. And one chap down the south with his what's name, but he was a smoker, and he decided to have a cigarette, and because it wasn't burning against the wind too fast, he thought, we'll hurry this up. And he set light to it and just went through fruit trees and everything. So that was the end of that. After that I decided, good, we'll make a tennis court out of it, which I borrowed the gear from work and all the rest of it, a grader and a loader. I borrowed it and I levelled off the block. And yes, and made the tennis court, and there we started to enjoy our frivolity after that.
With all the community?
Yeah, it was a sort of a community thing at the time.
He's a placemaker. Placemaker before his time, I might add, without realising that's what he was doing.
And they're particularly important and precious in the suburbs.
Yes.
Because people talk about the faceless suburbs.
Yes.
Well, without a focal point for the social life and the character of the place.
Yes.
It is a bit faceless. So he's the face of Blair Athol.
Yes, with the beautiful glamour of the two of them, but there was this goodness that.
Well, literally tea on the lawn.
Yes, absolutely, and he still today cares about everything that goes on around him. The only thing is he just can't get out there.
But he did
like
it.
He used to. Oh, it's.
Everyone hopes to have a life like Brian's. How did it develop? This was the first house here?
No, this was virtually the whole street. A lot of the members in there that built their homes, they were ex-servicemen. Around here, I was the only one that wasn't an ex-serviceman.
So all the houses were built at the same time, but by
about the same time, yeah.
But individually developed? They wasn't by one development?
I'd say mine was built in 1953. They were all built in the 50s.
Were they built by the same builder?
No, there was different buildings, although I did visit the corner house up here, and the plan of that house is the exact plan of this house, except my bathroom's there, their bathroom's over this side, is just turned around like that.
So chances are there was someone who was developing several properties, because of course they built this one on spec,
yeah,
which was...
That was it.
You came along at the right time.
Well, yeah, and a lot of that happened. I mean, quite often in those days you went along and you saw 1, 2, 3 houses and you think, gee, they're alike. Well, they're made out of the same plan.
Tell me about the Dingley Dell property. What was it at that time? It was new at that time?
Yes, they decided, or the Education Department decided to build a sort of an annex to the Blair Athol primary school for children in grade 1 and 2. And they built the premises at Angwin Avenue and Athol Avenue, which is just up the road here. And that lasted for quite some time. Nearly all the young ones that were 5 years of age and up to about 7 years of age went along there, and then transferred from there to grade 3 in Blair Athol School, primary school, which is on the Regency Road. They, after quite a while, they found out that it was going to be redundant, so it was passed over to the English language school, where all the migrants went. Not all of them, but majority of the migrants went and qualified with their English language.
Which later on moved down to Torrens Road.
That's right, yes. They did. And it became redundant as a language centre, and seeing that I got on the Neighbourhood Watch, I went up there to 1 or 2 meetings, and I think it was the 3rd meeting, I was nominated to be area coordinator, and I accepted the job, and by vote I romped it in.
And this is what year?
This would have been, goodness me, I was there for 30 years.
So 1970s?
It would be in the 1970s, in that bracket. And yeah, anyhow, I accepted the position. I'll tell you what, that book there, just have a look, it's a fairly heavy book.
This one in the ring binder?
Yep.
Oh yeah, wow, that is a big one.
Believe it or not, that is correspondence regarding Dingley Duel.
Oh right. Yeah.
And the front part of it.
Oh my goodness me! Look at that correspondence.
And you'll find in there that I wrote to all these parliamentarians. I got Ralph Clark on the thing, and Harbison and Lomax Smith, a whole bunch of people I went and saw, and it took me 5 years.
Wow.
To get, but that and
to get it done.
To obtain the land. I tried the council, and they were very concerned about the price. It was the whole block was going to go for $480,000. To finish up, I think they paid well over $500,000 for 6/10 of the land.
Wow.
And it just so happened we used to hold in the rooms up there, we used to hold our monthly meeting of Neighbourhood Watch there, and I was the coordinator. And I learnt that the premises was going to be sold. And I think it was either Walkerville Hospital or nursing home. They had put in an application for it. The Dingley Duel went up for auction, and I think it was sold virtually. And when after I'd made deputation to the current government, that they decided to refund the money to this fella, and open it up. After I'd seen John Olsen, roughly a fortnight after that, I got a call from the Port Adelaide Enfield Council, saying that they had made an offer, or they had been given a figure which evidently was affordable to them. And so we went ahead and planned the outlay of Dingley Dell.
And that was just the start of
During which
a
time,
lot of work to get up to the start of the work, but sorry, go on.
During which time
Yes.
they, I don't know whether I've got it here or not. Goodness me, there's a lot of
correspondence there. A lot of argument.
Yeah, it was there ever. You could see, these are my notes. I think that could be it. Just, I haven't got my glass on, just you read it and see.
Port Adelaide Council, attention, Mr. George Levay. Dear George, references made.
Levay.
Levay.
Yeah.
After some research of the school personnel, I think they mean, previous residence profile and local area criteria came up with the name Dingley Dell. Is that the one you're after?
That's it.
At our recent meeting of the NHW held on the 30th of April, the nearby residents, 25...
30th of April, what year?
Doesn't say. This is written in 2002.
Yeah.
And it's May, so yeah, so we're talking 2002.
Yeah.
The nearby residents, 25 in all, agreed to adopt the resolution that the new park be named Dingley Dell. I've enclosed a copy of our recent newsletter, number 83. On the back page, our editor has explained in quite some detail the justification of our choice. Was that you?
Yes, mate.
Good job. We look forward to receiving your comments on this subject and indeed any further developments regarding this project. Yesterday would be appropriate. Doesn't say that. Yeah. Excellent, good job. Well, Brian, thank you very much. You've done really well.
Well, yeah, so Dingley Dell became alive. Yeah.
And you met him when?
Oh, look, early in the late 90s when the Dingley Dell, I'll probably go back a bit because he also was the coordinator for the Blair Athol Neighbourhood Watch, and that was one of the strongest in South Australia because of him and Beryl. They put their whole life into it and to keep his community safe. So Neighbourhood Watch, Probus, he also was spoken about very highly because back in the, I wasn't on the old Enfield Council, but what they used to have was called a controlling body of the Clemsig Reserve, because as you know they had the trotters on that particular reserve, and it was only really revamped probably 10 years ago, if that. And so he belonged to the controlling body along with Arthur Mussolino. The work that they did looking after councils, they were on a committee that looked after councils' passive reserves, and particularly the Clemsig Reserve. So he was well known. Then in 2023, he received the Order of Australia from the Governor-General, and rightfully so. He is still Vice President of the Horticultural Society.
Wow,
Enfield
fantastic.
Horticultural Society.